Hey everybody, our guest speaker has already joined in, and I can see many of the attendees have already joined. So we can start now. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all the freshers. Giving a quick introduction about myself, I am Pavandeep, a sophomore in Computer Science Engineering Graphic Era. I am the lead at GDSC Graphic Era and an Android developer. I would like to thank the university for giving me a chance to interact with the freshies. I feel excited to have Ankita Saxena, SD2 at Google with us today. And I would like to know your excitements too. Let's make this session super energetic and interactive. So just drop hey, hi, or hello in the chat box so that I can feel your enthusiasm. Sir, where can I see the chats?
You can see a bubble with question mark in top of your screen. You can click on that. You will see the chat.
Okay, sir. I can see many of your responses. So yes, I can say that you are as enthusiastic as we are. Now, on behalf of Graphic Era, I would like to welcome Ankita Saxena. Hey Ankita.
Hi, Pavandeep, and hi, everyone else. Uh, I'm really excited to be here, and I would like to thank Google Developer Students Club to give me this chance to get to know you all and interact with you all.
Would you like to start by giving a quick introduction about yourself so that our
Sure,
audience could know that who you are?
sure. So, hi, I'm Ankita, and I completed my BTech in CSE in 2019 from IIT Roorkee. And ever since I have been working in Google, so I was a part of Google India in Bangalore, and I have worked on machine learning systems. Recently, I made a transition to Google London and started working on Android systems. And other than that, I enjoy discovering new places, meeting new people, and I have been in first year super confused, looking for answers. So I would love to answer your queries and get to know you all better.
And it's really impressive and has triggered many questions in my mind, which I'm definitely going to ask you now. It's completely visible from your profile, Ankita, that you have a great history of achievements. How was your experience so far?
So I can say it was a mix of ups and downs. So there were times when I felt really low and I was confused on what to do, how to do it. But eventually I figured it out. So it's more about the effort you put in into the things you like. And the important thing is to discover out what you love doing, because once you figure that out, it gets easier to do it because you know that you're passionate about this and you like doing this. So my experience has been really good because I have got to meet many new people and learn new things. And there were points where I felt low, but that was good in a way because it taught me how to rise up from there and how to put in the right efforts to go in the right direction.
It was really impressive. And I think that this is the most important thing, to enjoy what we are doing. And this is the only thing that today's youth is really missing. And I would also request audience to keep dropping their questions in the chat box. We will be taking your queries at the end of our session. So moving ahead, we saw that you really did in all the fields, be it cracking GSOC and outreach in open source. When we talk about competitive programming, then you have such great profiles in CodeChef and Codeforces, and students really find it difficult to create that balance. How did you manage out everything? And we can also see that you had really great CGPA in college too. So how did you manage out all these stuffs together?
Okay, so let me start by being really honest. So when I started college, I was super confused on what to do, what field to pick up, and my main focus was studies. Joining college just after coaching and stuff. So CGPA started off a good note, and I know many of your seniors, many other people will tell you that CGPA is not important. So that's really not the case. Try to maintain a good CGPA because that's something companies look at. It's not ideal, but it's something that companies look at. So that is really important. Other than that, I think I started with competitive programming in my first year and I kept doing it for a while. And it wasn't until second year when I realized there's so many other things to explore. There's open source, there's machine learning and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I started going into that field. So for maintaining the right balance, I think it's more about starting with one thing and keeping like exploring other small things in parallel. Once you find which are the small things you want to do, you can maintain a balance, you can maintain a schedule that I'm going to give this thing this part of my time or this part of my
Yeah.
schedule, and you can keep sticking to that schedule, and slowly you just don't realize it has become a part of your day-to-day routine. So
Yeah.
starting small always, and then keep going.
Like students always tends to complain that we don't get time. Our college starts from 9 in the morning and ending at 5 in the evening. How to do other stuffs, how to prepare, and how to prepare for the competitive programming, open source. So would you like to give some tips to them, that how can they manage out all these things with the college studies?
uh, so yeah, this is something which is very person dependent. You need to plan out a schedule and then just fit into it, make it a part of your routine, that you don't feel that is overwhelming or it is too much, and keep giving yourself breaks. Just don't get exhausted, don't get drained by it, enjoy it, and once you enjoy it, it won't feel something draining, right?
Yeah. So that ultimate points comes to our head again, to enjoy what we are doing. And I can say that today's attendees are really very lucky that they are going to learn these things as soon as they're entering the college, because there are many students who don't even know that what they are actually supposed to do once they enter college. Everyone have in their mind that yes, we have come in the college and we are surely going to do something great, but they don't know that what exact roadmap they should follow. So would you like to present a sort of roadmap to our freshers? They are in the first year, and I think they have a lot to do. They have so much fields open to them. They have a lot of time. So would you like to present a roadmap to them that, okay, so with what thing they should start, what resources they should follow as a beginner, how can they carry on?
So first of all, you have just started college. So first of all, just chill out,
Yeah,
make new friends, talk to new people, okay? Talk to your seniors, because it is very important to build a circle, of people who you can depend on, who can mentor you, who you can talk to and work together with. So that's a very, very important thing in college. I guess I couldn't have learned so many things if I did not have the amazing seniors and friends I did. And I was part of college groups, college communities, and we used to learn a lot there, that what we need to do, how we need to do it. So start by doing that. Start exploring what opportunities your college provides, right? What opportunities your courses provide. Start focusing on that and start making friends, building groups where you study together, where you prepare for exams together. And that is one other way to make things easier. Like, let us say you're giving a coding contest, and you can give it with your friends, right? You can tally after the contest that which
yeah,
question the other people did and which question you did. You can discuss the solutions, right? Other than that, one important thing is to focus on competitive programming once you move ahead. So for that, I would suggest you can start like giving contest on code forces, and HackerEarth provides some pretty good reading material on various topics. So that is a very important domain to explore. And once later on in life, when you prepare for interviews, placements, and all that stuff, you'll have tons of websites like Lead Code Interview Bit. But it is not about that. It is about like getting to know coding, right? It's like maths. You're given a
yeah,
question and you solve it. So you need to know the concepts there. You need to know what is integration and differentiation before doing it. So
yeah.
go on HackerEarth, explore topics, learn what things are, and if you find them interesting, proceed with it. And there will be tons of other things to explore. Read up about open source, read up about machine learning, read up about deep learning, read up about stuff, and find out what you like. Once you find out, so this first year is just about exploring, looking into all the domains and seeing what you actually like, and then going all in into that, right? So
Yeah.
that's the roadmap you should follow.
So this session is turning into a pretty informative session. I would like to request audience to keep taking notes of the important points. Ankita did mention about some of the websites which you can go through, like HackerEarth and Codeforces for the competitive programming and stuff. So yes, stay till end for more such tips. And Ankita, I had one more question in my mind. Like students gets really confused with open source. That what actually is open source? What are your feedbacks on it? And as freshers, how could they start their journeys in open source? What are the opportunities there in the open source?
Okay. So open source, as the name says, it is openly available and developed, like you can say free of cost, right? The developers do it because they like doing it, because they want to help people, and the people can use those softwares and stuff free of cost, right? So it's openly available. So as I told before, the most important way to learn things is talk to people who know things. Don't No question is a stupid question. No doubt is a stupid doubt, right?
Yeah.
You get to learn when you interact. So
Yeah.
open source provides that tremendous opportunity. I had my biggest learning experience was when I did my first open source intern, and I got to meet some of the mentors and the people who were working there, and I got to learn that how to actually work in a team environment, right? Some
Yeah.
of you may be good working by your own, but it is later on in life you will need to work in a team, and it is a very good skill to develop because you don't do everything on your own. You should know how to designate tasks, how to take help. So that is
Yeah.
one thing that open source teaches you, and there's so much to explore in open source. So my suggestion would be you all can go to GitHub. There are a lot of tutorials which tells what are the basic GitHub commands. Don't get overwhelmed by that. You don't need to learn all the commands at once. I still Google stuff, that what is the git command to do this. So that's totally normal. All the developers need to Google stuff, so you don't need to learn all that. But what you can do is start by searching projects on GitHub. You can search projects by tags and stuff. So start with a simple project. Maybe start with a documentation projects. There are a lot of projects which just improve documentation. That is
Yeah.
how I started, because
Yeah.
there's no technical stuff there. So you can just improve documentation and learn how to make changes, how to commit changes, how to ask someone to review your changes. So once you
Yeah.
do that, then you can explore more projects, go into more technical stuff that you like, any other project, search it, and then you can search for open source interns. You'll get a lot of opportunities. So I'll try sharing, if that's possible, about some of the good open source projects. There's a very good list of beginners open source projects. I think if you just do a Google search, you'll find it. So that is
Yeah.
something you can start with.
So this has triggered one more question in my mind. Students have this misconception that Googling stuff is not a good habit. So would you like to share your views on this? That is Googling good or not good for students like us?
It's really good. I think Stack Overflow has been my biggest teacher, because I learned so much stuff. Even now we like Google stuff, that how to do this, how to do that. Because if you don't Google stuff, how are you going to learn? You have people to tell you, but at a point you'll get stuck, right? And you need to Google. So it's a really good habit. Instead of getting stuck, talk to people, Google things, and find out your answers.
So we can say Googling is an art. Not everybody has it.
Yes.
And secondly, students do make this mistake that they try to hide the things which they are doing in the college, and they fear that, okay, if I'm making this project, then someone else might copy that project, and that mutual competition feeling. So would you like to say something on this, that is it good to share what we are doing, developing in our initial college days with our friends, and then asking our doubts with them, making a group studies and all?
Yes, so I think it's really important to share, right? Because when you teach someone, you learn a lot more from their doubts, from their understanding. So I
Yeah.
remember in college we had our a friends circle where we used to like sit a week before exams together in a room, and one of them would teach us and explain the doubts and everything. So once you do that, you actually build up on your skills, right? Not only the teaching skills, but you get to understand what you have actually studied, what you have actually learned. And it's
Yeah.
always good to help your friends, help people out. So don't hide what you're doing, rather than share it with people, help them develop those skills, and in turn you'll learn a lot more.
Yeah, okay. So we can say that we should think louder. Others should know that what we are doing, and we should keep sharing our stuffs with them. And this will ultimately develop an environment around us, and we will start enjoying the stuffs. And apart from the college curriculum, like we do have many subjects in the college, and like teachers have been really great in explaining all of them. But there are some qualities which companies really look for. So what fields should we focus upon in college apart from the college curriculum once we enter the college? What all fields should we try to focus upon?
So a few important things if you're thinking about in terms of placements and interviews. One thing is try to maintain a good CGPA, focus on your courses, focus on
Yeah,
what your profs are teaching you. Other thing is competitive programming is very important. I wouldn't say it is ideal, because I don't think everyone does like competitive programming, but it is something you need to do. It's like something you can say mathematics or solving problems. So you need to have a control over it, because companies don't have any other way to judge how a person is logically thinking, right? So competitive programming is a way to find out that. So keep doing that, maintain a habit of solving questions on a regular basis, And if you like it, it's a +1, but it's definitely not boring. You'll just enjoy solving a question, seeing a green tick there. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. Other than that, try to develop other skills. Try to find out which domain specifically interest you, because once you have joined a company, you will have a specific work, right? You're working on something specific, maybe
Yeah.
something machine learning, or something Android related or hardware related work, or anything else. So just find out what domains you like. That is something which you explore slowly. And the most important thing is, developing your personality. College is a lot about developing your personality,
Yes.
developing communication skills, developing
Yeah.
skills how to talk with people, how to get work done. So develop those skills, and that will only happen when you talk, when you like interact with people, when you join groups, when you participate in activities. So do that. Don't like just go into studies and stuff. Do other
Yeah.
things.
Not to be a bookworm. So this was really an interesting answer, and I'm getting so many interesting questions in the chat box, and I could see one which I really want to take for now. That what is one regret of your life? What you wish you should have done when you were a fresher?
Okay. So I'm giving you all a lot of advice, but when I started in first year, I was like really shy. I had a lot of difficulty in talking with people, in going out and giving interviews for group. And that was the reason that I started joining groups late. Like my first year, first semester was mostly being in my room, figuring out what to do next, because
Yeah.
I was first time out of the house. So that is one thing which I regret, that I should have interacted with people a lot more and tried to like get away that shyness and trouble in talking with people. So yeah, that's the one regret I have.
Okay, so I think that this would have answered the queries of the students. And one thing that I want to ask is that what's new that students can explore in engineering? Like engineering is generally mistaken as something only about studies, assignments, and workloads. Would you like to present a better picture of it to our freshers?
So it's not only about studies and assignments, right? As I
Yeah,
told, it's a lot more about developing your personality. That's the very important thing in terms of engineering, right?
hmm.
You need to develop the skills which you will later use in the industry, and you later use to learn more. Not just in the industry, you do a lot of other things. You go for masters, you go for higher studies, because you explore what you like. So it's more about knowing what you like, figuring out who you are as a
Yeah.
person and what you want in life. So engineering is more about that, and figuring that out is a really fun journey. Figuring out who you are and what you want in life is a really fun journey, and once you have answers to that, it makes you really happy. So I think I would describe engineering like that, because it was college where I figured out what I actually want in life, what I want to do later on, right?
So engineering is an art of life.
You can say that, yeah.
And students should feel excited to start their careers as engineers now. They should like behave as engineers now.
You have so many things to explore. It's just not one thing. Just like you'll
Yeah,
have so many domains, and it will be exciting to explore all of that.
yeah. And I'm getting so many questions. One of them is that what will be your suggestions for the freshers that whosoever has asked this question, then I'm really sorry, but we had already answered this question that like what to do in DSA, development and open source. And one more question, like you informed us that you have been interviewing some of the candidates in your company. So could you just give a gist that what all necessary qualities do companies really look for in candidates?
Okay. Yeah. So this is one of the important things, as I mentioned earlier, is that get a hold over competitive programming, because your interview question will be a competitive programming question, right? That is something they
Yeah.
will ask you to solve. But that is not the only skill we look at, right?
Hmm.
So you, let us say you solve the question, but you're not interacting in the interview. You're not explaining what you're doing. So
Hmm.
the interviewers won't have, we rate you on a lot of things, not just your coding skills, but we rate you on how you communicate, how you're asking your doubts, how you're explaining what you're doing, right? When I'm asking the question, I'm expecting you to explain it. I'm expecting you to explain it while coding. That why have you
Yeah.
created this function? Why have you created this variable? Then many people think variable names and all those stuff don't matter. It matters in an interview, right? Your code
Yeah.
needs to be clear. Your code needs to be readable, that other people understand it. So these are very important skills that I think communication is one of the most important block. I have had interviews where I couldn't perform well because of
Yeah.
communication skills. I did not interact a lot, and I did not get selected because of that issue. So it is very important to be confident, to keep interacting with your interviewers, And just remember one thing, they want you to be selected. They are not like, they are rooting for you actually. So be confident, don't be scared in interviews. And
Yeah.
it's not always necessary that you solve the problem or reach to the answer. It's more necessary how you approach the problem, how you explain what you're thinking. So that
Yeah.
is very important interview skill.
Okay, and Ankita, we know you today as a successful person working happily in Google. So, would you like to share that phase of your life when you were like really disheartened, or you were not able to get what you really wanted to according to your preparation, so that our students can really feel motivated and can understand that success is not something that a person gets in the first attempt?
Yes, so this is a good story actually with regards to your question. So
Yeah.
during my placements, I was really doing good in the coding test. So you have written test and then you have interviews, right? So the written tests were going really well, and I
Hmm.
had like 5 or 6 interviews on the day zero of placements. And it was my first time like giving an interview. Like internships were in direct offer based on some other factors, but it was
Yeah.
my first time giving an interviews for the placements. And I was like super nervous. I was really quiet during the interviews, and I did not get selected. I did not get
Yeah.
selected for like any of the companies at day zero, because I was like I was really quiet. I wasn't speaking a lot. I was trying to solve the problem, but I wasn't like communicating well, as I said.
Yeah.
And after that, I was super disheartened. I was like, I did not feel like giving any more interviews because I had like already given a lot. Like you have 4 or 5 interviews per company, and there were 6 or 7 companies. So I was like super exhausted, and I felt like I cannot do this anymore.
Yeah.
And then it was my group of friends who motivated me that just go for one more interview. The last one, if you don't get selected in that, we are not going to force you to give any more interviews. And I went for one other, and the company was App Dynamics, and I got selected in that. But it was always in the back of my mind that I prepared really hard for this. I worked really hard for this, and I felt I answered all the questions in interview. So why didn't I get into my dream company, right? Which
Yeah.
was Google for me. So I
Okay.
decided to work on those skills to keep. So after that, I participated in a lot of Google events to get another chance for an interview. I participated in Google has like coding contests, a lot of coding contests. You have Code Jam and all that. So I
Yeah.
kept giving that, and I got another opportunity for interview. And I decided I'm not going to like mess this up by not talking again. So that
Yeah.
was just a month before the joining. Like I was going to join App Dynamics in July, and I
Yeah.
gave the interview for Google in June, and I got selected that time. So my Google selection was off campus. It wasn't on campus. I did not. I got rejected that time. But don't take rejections personally. Take it as an opportunity to learn, to know
Yeah.
what went wrong.
So it was a pretty inspirational answer for our freshers. And students really fail to find opportunities at right time. They are so much into the preparation stuff that they get completely unaware of the opportunities around them. Would you like to throw some lights on the opportunities which are available there for the students?
Okay, so yeah, I guess you have a lot of coding contests going on, and they provide you a lot of in terms of coding. If you're talking about that, so you can just look up for Google's coding contest. They go on a regular basis, and you get a chance to interview to know more about Google. Then there are a lot of other events, like conferences and things which happen. When you participate in open source events, you get to be a part of a lot of conferences. So try like attending them, try participating in open source, and just contribute to open source without expecting anything in return, right? Don't just do it
Yeah.
for interns. Start doing it in general, and you'll get a lot of opportunities to interact with actually a team there, which is like working in an office, and you'll
Yeah.
get to attend conferences and stuff, and then participate in your college activities. That is very important. Like Google Developer Students Club, right? You're getting an opportunity to know things. So be engaged, be curious to learn, and you'll get to know more stuff.
So we can say that yes, apart from the technical knowledge, friends, teachers, our relationships with them do play an important role in our career building. And Ankita, you have been talking a lot about open source. So would you like to explain students that what is Outreachy, what is GSOC, because like you have qualified these prestigious exams or internships, we can say. So would you like to throw some light on it? Explain students in some layman terms that what these things actually are, because they are just freshers. How should they prepare for them from now itself?
Yeah, sure. So Outreachy is an intern specific for like underrepresented groups in tech. So one of those groups is women, right? Women are underrepresented in tech. So that is an intern specifically for women and the other underrepresented groups in tech. You can see the list of the underrepresented groups. You can just Google it and find out what are the groups specifically. And it is basically, it's actually just similar to Google Summer of Code. So Google Summer of Code is specifically organized by Google. It is again an open source internship. What happens there is you have a list of organizations, okay, and each of those organizations, they provide a list of projects what they want to accomplish over 3 months in when you have your summer vacations basically. And so you can start contributing to those projects whenever you want to. You can see which were the organizations in the previous year. Organizations keep repeating, okay? So the organizations that participated in GSOC last year, there's a high chance many of them will participate this year as well. So what I did was I started contributing to one of the organizations which repeatedly participated and had a lot of projects every year, because you have a greater chance of selection there, right? So once you do that, you need to build up a proposal. Like you choose a project, let us say the organization has 10 projects, or maybe there are cases where they have 2 projects. You choose a project, you build up a proposal. So proposal is basically a statement where you write down what are the things you're going to do, how you're going to do them, and you build a timeline that you're going to take X weeks for this and Y weeks for this work. And then based on your proposal, you submit it. Based on your proposal and your contributions, you get selected for the internship. So Outreachy is just a similar thing. It's only the difference of who the internship is open for, right? Outreachy is just open for underrepresented groups in tech, and Google Summer of Code is open for everyone. So Google Summer, both of these interns are a very good learning experience, you know. So I would say just start contributing to open source as soon as you can, because that is a good way to know about different domains in computer science. Actually, you'll have everything, an opportunity to contribute to everything without any like prerequisites. You know, you can just go ahead and contribute. You'll see an issue list when you go to GitHub. You can find out what you want to fix, what you want to do. So it's a really good thing to learn everything.
Okay. And like I'm able to see many questions related to like what should we choose, competitive programming or development, or I would like to frame this question this way, like is it possible to land up a job solely on the basis of development in top-notch companies, and how much did CP played a role for you? If a person is doing competitive programming and is like completely into development, is it possible for him, or if it is possible, what are the scope of opportunities then compared to competitive programming?
So I think it's really important to do competitive programming. The reason here is that based on development, what the companies want to judge is, are you able to logically think? Because any problem which is given to you, you need to logically think, right? So competitive programming is a way for them to judge that. So it's very important that you have a handle over the. So if you're, let us say you're not, so there were a lot of students, lot of friends who were not doing competitive programming and they were focused on other activities like development or any other domain, right? But just before the placements, just before the interviews, they started doing it. So it's not something very hard. I'm not saying that if you don't like it, there's a case that you don't like it, right? So you don't need to do it regularly. You can just but you have to do it at some point of your life. You know, it is something which is compulsory. It is something which won't feel right if you don't like it, but you will need to practice before your interviews, before your placements. Maybe that practice is a period of 4 months, right? You practice over a semester, or you practice just, you plan out, you solve the questions. If you talk to most of the HRs in the companies, they will say just solve the questions on lead code or solve all the questions on interview bit and you'll be good to go. And that is true. You'll be good to go. You'll cover everything up. So you can either do it because you like it, or you can do it as a compulsion, but you'll need to do it at some point, right? Before placements, because even though you're really good at what you do, that is something which will come into action once you join a team, once you start working. That will not come into action in the interviews, right? There might be one interview which asks you about the projects you have done, but the remaining will be coding questions, right? So you'll need to practice it.
And how much is CP playing a role inside company for you now? That like, is there any role of competitive programming now? I know
I don't think it is,
but it is good for the freshers to know.
Yeah, I don't think it is playing a major role at all. So yeah, there are some topics like graphs. Now let us say you have joined Uber, okay? So Uber uses graphs to like build up their whole system. They need to know how a cab is approaching, what is the distance and all that, and graphs play a very important role. So there can be a scenario that, you know, CP helps. Graphs was one of my favorite topics in competitive programming. I really liked it. But as of now, I don't use it at all. It is not required anywhere. So it depends, on your role. Mostly roles might not require CP. The only thing will be that you'll have a good logical reasoning or thinking skills, how to optimize problems. That is something the CP teaches you. Complexity analysis is very important when you're working on anything. So that is something that CP teaches you. So there are bits and parts which get used, but I wouldn't say a lot of it is used in my role.
So I think that this must have answered the queries by the students, and like students really find it difficult to get internships. Like, what's the best time to go for internships? In which year should they try for it? How should they prepare? So would you like to share something on it? That what's the best time to apply for internships, and what sort of internships are actually helpful?
Yeah, so for us, like internships were mostly, it was in the third year, but it is not something specific that you need to do in third year. If you're eager to learn, you can go in. Like so Google has another intern which is called STEP intern. That is again specific for like women who are in the second year of that college. So that is a good opportunity. And other than that, you can just apply whenever you want to. Like Google has a lot of students from second years. So not just for women. I think in general they give a lot of opportunities, and I think all the companies do that. I think Microsoft has a Codes program and all that stuff. So basically, there's no specific timeline on when you should go for internship. I wouldn't say first year for sure, because that is a period when you learn what you like doing. So just don't put a lot of pressure yourself in first year. But it is good to go from second year or third year. And about the type of internships, I think you need to find out what work you like. So I had my internships in Adobe, and I did not like enjoy the work there a lot. Okay, so it's good that you figure that out before joining, right? Find out what project they're giving you, because they'll tell you what you're doing. And internships are also a way to explore, right? Because that is not full time, but there's a high chance the company you're interning with, you can get a placement offer from them. You can get a placement offer from the same team. So it's good if you like know that before starting the internship what they're doing. So you can just there are like tons of companies and tons of offers available. So it's all like about a Google search again. Go on Google and find out what kind of work you like. Even the companies list down the projects, right? If you go to the Google applying page, you'll see a list of different jobs and roles with explanations. So all the companies do that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So basically find out what you like, and that will take a while, that will take at least a year. So just don't be in a rush to do everything. You can like spend your first year exploring and start like looking for opportunities from second year onwards.
Yeah, and like students get to know many things at one go and then ultimately ends up confused and worried. So would you like to suggest something to them, like they should make small goals for them, complete them, and not just think for all the things at one go, which will ultimately end up confusing and messing up everything?
So my advice is that like don't plan on doing everything. No one can do everything. Okay, so and you don't need to do everything. There are only a few things which you like. So in my college I never did Android development. Now I find it, I wanted to try it out, so I switched to an Android team. So I still have the opportunity to learn. You don't need to learn everything in college, right? You can start with a list of, you can talk to your seniors actually. That is a very helpful thing to do, and they can tell you what they tried, and you can and how they tried, what are the sources they use in the college, what are the groups they were a part of. So using that you can figure out what things you like. So when you're starting, don't put a lot of pressure on yourself. Try just reading about things. Reading is a good habit anyways. So try reading about different things, and find out what you like, and then focus your energy more on it. Don't like go deep into everything. Just take a overview of everything and then decide which things you want to go deep into and put all the effort into. And don't make it a long list. Start with a few things, and once you have a mastery over a few things, you can explore new things always.
Okay, and I guess this answer was really helpful for our freshers to start their journey. And our audience is really very active in the chat box. And one of their question is to share your journey to Google. Like you have been talking about many companies before Google, which you worked in. So how did you ultimately end up a job in Google? And before joining Google, what was your mindset? Like there must have been some insecurities in your mind that it was your dream company and still you were not able to join. So would you like to share your journey till Google?
Yeah, sure. So my internship experience wasn't very good for me. I did not enjoy the work a lot because it was a very team specific thing as well. Like many other friends who joined Adobe, they enjoyed the work a lot because they had different teams and different kind of work. So I did not want to go with the placement offer there because it would be in the same team, right? So I wanted to try something different, and that is the reason I sat for placements. But I had like almost not done CP in a while before my placements because I was focused on internship, on the open source
Yeah.
interns, and I was completely out of touch. So it was like starting from scratch again. But since there was a past experience of first and second year where I did CP regularly, participated in contests, so I had an idea, but it was starting from scratch. So I did that, I did that in groups. I sat with my friends and we used to like sit and give contests together and then discuss after the contest that what's your rank,
Yeah.
what's my rank, and what are the questions you did and all that stuff. And it was also missing out on a lot of things, when you reject a placement offer and you go for placements, then you miss out on a lot of things which other people are doing. So there are a lot of people who are placed right after the internships, and they get to go on trips and they get to
Yeah.
enjoy that semester because they have nothing to do. So that's hard, seeing all your friends doing that. But at the same time, they do support you as well. They tell you that okay, just get this and you have one other semester to enjoy. So it,
Yeah.
it was tough, definitely. And the other things were I got really nervous in my interviews, as I told you. So
Mhm.
after that, the one most important thing I did was I reached out for feedback. I mailed my recruiters that what went wrong in each interview. So you can do that. You can do that with all the companies. You mail your recruiters, and I'm not guaranteeing they'll give you a reply, but you can try, right? And you can reach out to people who you know in those companies. You can reach out to me anytime. If you have a recruiter not answering you can reach out to me and I can try connecting you to them. So it's important to get feedback because until you know what's wrong, you cannot fix it. So it was tough. It was disheartening at that point of time because I wasn't able to understand what went wrong. But once
Yeah.
I had an idea of it, I worked on it again. So it was again a lot of like after place like once you are like college is over, you just wait for the day when you're joining the company and you enjoy. But that period was again a period when I was again doing coding, again searching for interviews because I wanted to give it a try, right? So don't give up. You will feel a lot of times like giving up, but don't give up. If you try hard enough, you can achieve everything.
So we can say that success is not a one day story. It is a days of hard work, and we should always keep working hard, not expecting anything. And the second thing is that we should keep taking reviews of our interviews, and we should always try questions which we were not able to do, let's say in a test. That test can be a college test, a college quiz, or a company interview. We should always go and search answers. This is where it will improve us. So there is another question in the chat box that which programming language should we use as basic?
It doesn't matter. Okay, you can go with any language. I started with C++. So once you know a language, you can switch to any other language. Even when we take interviews now, all the interviewees, they have a choice to select a language, and that is a very long list. Okay, you can select any language you want to give the interview in. So just pick a language, and you can. It's very easy to switch from one language to another. So I did everything in C++, but that's not necessary. You can pick whatever language you are comfortable with, and it's not at all an issue with any company.
There is another question that how did you face your failure? You can just give
Okay.
a short answer to it.
So yeah, it was mostly about finding out what went wrong and then having the support of my friends and my family at that point of time that I can do this if I work hard enough.
Yeah. And like how much CGPA should I maintain?
Uh, I think try keeping it above 8. To be honest, that would be a good thing to do.
Like
Because
what is
there is a shortlist bar on companies. I think many
yeah.
companies do that, so it's good to keep it above 8.
There is another interesting question that how did you overcome your shyness, as you say in starting that you didn't interacted with your seniors and others.
So I went on a trip. I just went on a trip when a group in my batch asked that you want to go on a trip, and then you don't have a choice except to interact with everyone once you go on a trip. I went on a rafting trip. So you are in a raft with 8 people, and you need to talk, right? So just do activities which force you to talk, and it will go away. The shyness will go away.
and like how communication skills are important for placements. Like students really ignore this vocabulary subjects in the college also. They just completely focus on technical stuffs, ignoring all these things. So what degree of priority should students pay in their communication skills, and what measures can they adopt in order to improve them?
So communication skills are really, really important. I would say as important as your CP skills, because if you're not able to explain what you're doing, it is it is of no good, right? So you should be confident. You should be able to explain things you're doing. So one way to develop is, as Pawandeep asked, that we should share stuff. We should teach others what we are doing. So that is a good way to develop your communication skills, right? Because when you're teaching people, you're explaining stuff. So try doing that. Try making groups and sharing skills with each other, right? So that is a good way to develop communication skills. And obviously, like, do co-curricular activities, go on trips, talk to people, and all, go on parties, or all the stuff which you can do in college other than studies. That is also very important. Like, you have like birthdays, right? People give birthday parties. So go there and have fun, talk to people. Talking to people always like helps.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting answer. And this is the last question for you. We are already going ahead of time. That do you want to share any life lesson, irrespective of their backgrounds? That let's say that here we have students from all the backgrounds, not only engineering. So, do you want to share any life lesson with the freshers, which can help them start their journeys in their fields in a better way?
Okay. So I think it's never too late for anything. That is a very important life lesson. So one of you asked me what should be the ideal CGPA. So there's a case you don't have above 8. Okay, it doesn't. After a time, it won't matter if you try hard enough. It's a good to have thing. Obviously, it will make things easier for you. But let us say you don't have it, so it's not something you to be disheartened about, right? You can work hard on your skills. Ultimately, your skills matter. So you'll find a way out if you keep working hard and you realize that it's never too late to learn things, right? So just
Yeah.
keep trying, don't give up, and keep learning.
And one last question, Ananya, for Ankita, for today, that how average or weak students learn programming and coding? Like students really underestimate themselves by considering themselves as average or weak. So, any suggestions for them?
So don't consider yourself as average as weak. Everything is in terms of hard work. I don't really agree with the concept that one person is stronger and one person is weaker in terms of how they work or how they think. It's more about hard work. The harder you work, the stronger you are. So define your averages or weakness upon your hard work, right? And I think everyone can do hard work. So don't feel that way. Keep working hard and you won't like feel like you're average or weak or anything like that.
Thanks a lot, Ankita, for answering all the queries by the students. It was really a wonderful session, and we are really thankful to you for your efforts to be with us here today and such a wonderful interaction with the freshies.
Thank you, Pawandeep. I enjoyed this a lot. And I would also again like to thank Google Developer Students Club because of their initiative. They're helping students with development, coding, and organizing these sessions. So this is a really great thing. And I would encourage all of you to be involved as much as you can. And thanks
And
a lot. I really had fun.
I would also like to thank Graphicera in a special way for giving us this opportunity, this platform to interact with the freshers. This was not at all possible without their cooperation, without their helping hand with us. So yes, special thanks to all of them. And it was really great of you to come and talk with us on such a short notice. So yes, there are many of the queries by the students which I guess are still unanswered, but don't worry guys, you can always contact me through Telegram or Discord. You can find the link in the chat box soon of my Telegram, and you can anytime ask your queries. You can get in touch with me, or you can get in touch with Ankita ma'am also through her LinkedIn ID. She'll be more than happy to guide all of you. And yes, if you want any specific session, again, let's say on competitive programming or GSOC or any other thing, then we would be more than glad to have Ankita ma'am again with us today. And I guess she will be available with us on any of her off working days.
Sure. I would definitely love to get in touch with you all and help in any way I can.
Thank you, Ankita.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. So now it's time to move ahead in the session. I would like to thank university again for giving a chance to interact with the freshies. It's time to introduce you all to GDSC. So I request Avneet to share his screen for the presentation. I recommend all of you to stay till end because I assure you that you are going to learn a lot from this session. This is going to be a very informative session for all of you, and it's definitely going to help you throughout the 4 years of your college life. So you should consider you guys very lucky that you are learning these things on the first day of your college itself, and this will definitely help you guys to start your journeys in a better way. So let's start with GDSC. That what exactly is GDSC? Next slide, please. In short, GDSC is Google community which helps students technically. We help students in their technological and development journeys. And let's see that what is there ahead in this session for you all. In this session, you are going to know that what is GDSC, what as a part of GDSC we provide you, what are the perks of joining a GDSC, you will be knowing more about us, how can you join us, and then at the last we have short domain explorations for you all. These are very beginner friendly domain explorations in various technological fields which are definitely going to help you. So yes, stay till end and you are really going to enjoy this session. It's surprise time, guys. So we have planned to give a special shout out to 2 people. The one who will be the most interactive during the session. So yes, we are going to pay attention that who is going to be most active in the chat box. Keep asking your queries and you will be getting a shout out from us. And second is we are going to organize a quiz at the end of our session. The quiz will be having simple questions from the session itself. So yes, stay active and stay till end. So it's time to answer what is GDSC. GDSC stands for Google Developer Student Clubs, which is running in association with Graphic Era University. These clubs are specifically set up by Google across universities across the world. What's special about this club? There is something definitely special because these clubs are not found in all the universities. There are only some special universities where such clubs are found. So we help students to build their career, to help them, to guide them. So let's see that what exactly can GDSC provide you. As a part of GDSC, you will be getting a chance to be a part of informative sessions. We will be organizing various sessions throughout the college, time to time, which will be helping you. We will be inviting industry people. We did organize many events in the past too. We will be organizing hands-on workshops. These workshops will be teaching you from scratch how to start your journeys in, let's say, web development, Android development, etc. We will provide you one-on-one guidance to solve your queries. We will be providing you resources and a wonderful community to discuss your doubts and yes, exposure. Next slide, please. So here is a glimpse of our GDSC core team. GDSC core team is the most important pillar of GDSC. It contains of a GDSC lead, co-lead, a team of student mentors, a team of tech leads who are specialized in various technologies, social media manager, management, technical writer, content designer, and student representatives. They do help us in organizing various events, and you too can become a part of GDSC. So if anybody of you is interested, you may approach us and we would be more than happy to have you. Here is a glimpse of our past events. We have organized a number of events in the past. Let it be an event on Git and GitHub, teaching you Flutter, web development, Android development, and there are many more events for you in the future. So stay updated with our channel, stay updated with our Discord, Telegram, Instagram, and LinkedIn handles. You can see the links on your screen. I would recommend all of you to take a quick screenshot of this slide. You can scan the QR code also, and from these links, you will be able to join our handles where you can ask your queries anytime, and we will always be available for you. Just wait for 15 seconds so that student can take a screenshot of this slide. Yeah, we can move now. So now it's time to start another important part of our session. Our tech leads at JDSC will be giving you beginner-friendly domain explorations, and you are really gonna enjoy this. It's time to start a quick tour of tech domains. So I request one tech lead in web development to take over the session from here. You guys can keep asking your queries in the chat box, and we will be taking them.
Thank you so much, Pavandeep. Hi, greetings everybody. My name is Vansh Patpatia, technical lead at the Google Developer Student Club, Graphic Era University. I'm here to interact with you all and give you an overview of what is web development. So let's get started. Heading towards the question that what is web development? So basically it is building, creating and maintaining websites for the internet. However, for me, it is more like a platform to give your ideas a vision. Heading towards the next slide. It comes the stages of web development. For me, I have differentiated this in the 4 points. First one is project uncovering. That means how your project or what is your project going to be. Second comes the imagination and information architecture, which represent the imagination and information you can put in your website. Third comes the user interface and design. This actually means and asks you to feel as a user to your own websites, giving the reviews to your own user interface of the website. Fourth comes the examine and evaluate. After your website is completely built, you have to examine and evaluate as a user to that. Heading towards the next slide, that comes the type of web development. Starting with front-end development, front-end development is responsible for the colors and the position and images you see on a website. You might have built some web pages in your class 8 that comes in front-end development. Heading towards back-end development. This is basically handling the request from front-end development and sending data to the database. Let's take an example to understand this whole scenario of front-end development and back-end development. Considering a website like Netflix, which asks you to fill up a form for your subscription. Now, the design of the form, the working of the buttons, all comes under the front-end development. Whereas on submitting the form, the data of your subscription goes and gets saved into the database. How does it happen? It is handled by the back-end development. Now comes the full stack development, which is a combined form of front-end and back-end development. Here are some of the frameworks and languages for back-end and front-end development on your screen. Heading towards the next slide. This is the most discussed topic of every student or a fresher. That is scopes and roles of web development. Let's see the graph. As you can completely see the number of increase in the years of number of websites. So let's start with this topic. First point is to kickstart your development journey. What is it? It is basically development not only limits to web development. It continues to various platforms like app development, which Avneet is going to take over after me. Next come freelancing. What do startups do to get public? It's basically they publish their website first. So freelancing is one of the most important scopes of the web dev. Third comes the web automation. Making a web automated bot is quite easier with a knowledge of web dev. Another point I would like to discuss with you all is that this web development or web dev is considered as the basic thing or a skill which every developer should know. And moreover, having projects and experience over this skill is obviously a plus point in your campus hiring program. Heading towards the next slide. Here comes the resources to learn the web development. First, starting with the YouTube. YouTube has many channels for web development, as you all know. Go give them a try, watch a single video of one of them and choose the best. Heading toward the MDN Web Docs. It is the best website, I think. It is the best website, I think, which can be used for learning documentation. Next comes the online platforms like Udemy and Coursera. These also provides best courses to learn web development from scratch. Last comes the W3 School website. It is basically a basic clearing website which clears all your basic, and it really helpful in giving a revise of your previous skills that you just started. Let's head toward the next slide. Question time. Feel free to ask questions regarding web dev in the chat box.
There are some questions by our audience, so we will be taking these questions on web development for 2 minutes, and then we will be heading towards our next technology. So keep sure that you ask your questions in these 2 minutes. The first question is that what is EDX website?
What is EDX website? Actually, I have not visited that particular websites, but you can give a try to them. Next one, please.
What's the best part-time job for a college student as a freelancer?
Okay, so basically when you have a free period or a library period, you can build up your projects. First, you need to get a project on a freelancing website. Like you have some holidays in a streak for a week, or you can complete that small freelancing projects, complete and publish them.
Sanyam Pandey is asking, I'm copying codes and pasting them, so is it a good habit?
Actually, like copying code, whole of the website code is not a good habit, but you can take a snip from the Stack Overflow, which gives some logic like for JavaScript functions and for some backend like PHP also. But copying the whole code of a particular website is not a good habit. It comes in the copyright issues.
So, and I would also like to add up that when we say that it's a good habit to Google, it just means for Googling stuff to help in small things and not just copying whole codes. And then let's say that college is giving you some projects to make and you are just copying whole projects from the internet. It's not a good habit in that case.
Yeah.
So, best language for web development.
So basically, this is the best question I think it is, and I have also questioned someone with this question. So basically, first clear your basics like all the HTML tags and the CSS syntaxes for the better UI, and then you can completely go to the new frameworks and library that are built new daily and moreover weekly and handled by the developer teams. Like for one of the most I can suggest you library for front-end development is React.js, that is backed and developed by Facebook. It is written in JavaScript and you can completely use it having using the resources that I have mentioned earlier.
And before heading towards the next question, I would just like to add up something here that we have students from all the backgrounds, from technical as well as non-technical here. So why are we presenting this session to the non-technical people? So this is really an interesting question and I would really like to answer this. The answer is that everybody knows that India is heading towards digital India. And there is no field which does not has the demand of technical people. Let's say even if you are in B.Pharm or let's say MBA or anything, any non-technical field, it will have a demand of technology. And if you know technology, what's harm in that? Like there is no loss in that if you know something in advance. It will only add up in your skills. So in this world, in this technical world, everybody should have the technical knowledge, at least the basic technical knowledge. So yes, this session is for all and not only for the technical people.
Okay, Pavandeep, I will take 2 more questions and then I will wrap up. First question is best freelancing websites. For basically not verified profiles, Freelancer is the website. But for being a verified profile, you can go to Upwork and Fiverr and find work over there. Coming to the question, cloud computing and web development relation. Like you visit YouTube on a website or just Netflix website. So how the videos are stored on the website, it's completely not possible. You give a request to the Netflix server to play this picture or this series. Then the backend connects to the cloud and process the same picture or web series that you want to watch on your screen. So basically, this is how cloud computing and web development is interrelated. You can completely get to the courses for web development and cloud computing both, but do manage with your college and extracurricular activities. Do manage to have skills and the college CGPA as well. Thank you, everyone. It was a quite good interaction with you all. I hope you liked it. Now heading towards the app development by Avneet.
Pawan, can you confirm is I am audible and visible?
Yes, Savneet, you are audible, but I can't see your video for now because I think you are presenting. That may be the issue.
Yeah,
No
okay,
problem.
okay.
As far as your voice is audible, you can continue.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so hey everyone, I am Avneet Singh, co-lead at Google Developer Student Club Software University, and I'm a Flutter developer as well as Android native developer. I am here to introduce you to the wonderful technology, and that's app development. Also, feel free to use the message box to ask any questions you may have, and don't worry if you are confused by any of the terms. Ask freely and we will go over them. And let's get started. What is app development? We are familiar with applications since we use them on our daily basis. Also, this entire schooling system is only possible because of apps like MS Teams, WhatsApp, and so on. So basically, we are all aware of the potential of apps and the app development. So by the term itself, we can conclude that the process of developing or making apps is known as app development. Uh, before we go any further, let's talk about why we should study app development. Because first and foremost, we should know why we are learning any technology and what are its use cases in our everyday life. So I'm personally very much motivated with this first point as I myself is very much interested in my own startups. So if you have any wonderful idea to work on, you should definitely study app development. As with the WhatsApp also, it began as a concept and evolved into a fantastic product over a time. Uh, you can work as an app developer in any company or you can own a company. Basically, every company has some product to showcase or sell. So apps can be the fantastic way to increase the business. Moving to third point, we also highlight our development journey on our resume and showcase our projects. So when applying to any tech company, the quality of project often impresses the interviewer. And the most important, your interest also matters a lot. If you have not planned the future with this technology and you are even little interested in it, so you should give it a try. It's an amazing technology. So how to study app development? Basically, we develop an app. Actually, we develop to operate on an operating system such as Android or iOS that generally our mobile phone supports, right? So here comes to two terms, native app development and hybrid app development. So the term native app development refers to building a mobile application exclusively for a single platform or operating system. Let's take a dig. Suppose we develop a native Android app. So that native Android app cannot run on iOS devices or Apple environment. Similarly, we can build apps for iOS explicitly that are only compatible with iOS devices or iPhones, you can say. So that is something native app development. So for an example, let's take a look at WhatsApp app for both iOS and Android. So they look very much different, and similarly they are different in functionality as well as in user experience. Okay, so this is only because they are built in separate code base for iOS and Android. So the native apps are built with programming languages or tools that are specific to only single platforms or operating system. Moving to a next slide, we have now we have IDE or you can say softwares that are powered by developers where we can write our code to develop an app. So Android Studio is the IDE to develop Android apps, and the language used to develop Android apps are Java or Kotlin. So with Java or Kotlin, Java was the big thing before, but since Google released its official language as Kotlin to develop apps, it is now in great demand, and industries are really shifting their code from Java to Kotlin, as Kotlin is way easier to code, but the Java is still in demand because it is an evergreen language. Now, similarly, we have Xcode to develop iOS apps, and the code for iOS apps is written in Swift language or C Sharp. So moving to second way of developing apps, that hybrid app development. So this is an approach that allows developers to build a mobile app that is compatible with multiple operating systems or the platforms like Android, iOS, Windows with a single code base. So with a single code base, you can develop Android apps, iOS apps, web apps, Mac OS apps, and even the websites with the same code. So Flutter is developed by Google, which allow us to build applications for many platforms. So okay, so it is support. So it supports Android, iOS, Mac OS apps, and even websites also. The programming language that is used in Flutter applications are Dart. Okay. Uh, so the programming language that is used in Flutter applications are Dart, and some of the popular apps that are built using Flutter are my BMW app, Google Ads, and the one which is most famous during IPL, and that's Dream 11. Moving forward, we have React Native. So this is also a framework for making apps for iOS and Android using the language JavaScript. So it is developed and backed by Facebook. It is based on React, the best JavaScript library, and which is used in developing websites also. So website developers having knowledge of React.js have a very short learning curve in hybrid app development because of this React Native tool only. So some of the apps that are built using React Native are Facebook, Myntra, Discord, and a lot more. Moving forward, we have scope of app development. So scope of app development, you can see the various jobs in app development, starting from big companies like IBM, CRED, and small startups too. Uh, One of our student mentor of our community is also an intern at USA based startups. So you can see we have a good number of opportunities and community to help us in our development journey. Also, you can take part in hackathons where you are required to deliver a problem-based solutions to your domain. And there are a lot of projects on freelancing platforms also where you can earn money with the skills. Also, the most important, your projects outshines your resume. Also show presenting a fully working app that can be an amazing way to impress your interviewer. So guys, this is a quick overview of mobile app development, and now it's a time to take up your queries.
Yes, Avneet, there are a number of queries in the chat box. So
Yes.
the first query is by Sanyam, that is it necessary to master all the things in the first year?
It's not necessary to master. You have to just you have to explore your domain, whatever you like. Means you have to see web development, app development, and which suits you. You have to go with it. So you should make it like you should know about app development, web development. If you have interest in app development, then you should go with app development, and same with web development and other technologies. So it's not necessary to master one technology because you cannot be the master of everything. You can be the jack of everything, but master of one.
It was really nice answer. And the another thing which I would like to add up in this is that guys, just take your own time. Don't give yourself deadlines because deadlines don't work for all. Just enjoy the things, enjoy these technologies, and you will be ultimately ending in just doing great in these things. The other question is that can we prepare an app during the college studies itself?
Yeah, you can prepare lot of number of apps in your college journey. I too have prepared many apps. I have created many apps. You can make apps that are that can be used in university and that can be used in your local businesses. So you are free to create apps, and yeah, it's all based on your journey, whatever you like, how you create an app, and how you are means how you are interested to integrate that project with cloud computing or web development or any other technology, and how far you take that project to next level. Means it's all up to you that how you learn the stuffs and implement it.
And secondly, many of our college students, our seniors have already done that. Many of the apps are already in use. So you can be the next one. So you can start your journeys from today itself, and who knows, the next apps is yours. So let's move to the next question. Which kind of applications are on demand right now?
Yeah, so you can see the social media applications are very much in demand. You can see Instagram, WhatsApp, and they means they are used on a daily basis. So they are very much in demand. And similarly, you can means they are very high level apps that are built using teams. That are thousands of teams. They are built using thousands of team and integrated with multiple technologies. So at the student level, you can build an app that can help the local businesses. Means you can help the local shopkeepers to help their to enhance their business, and you can also make an app to help in university purpose. So there are a lot of ideas, and you can also search ideas on internet for the app development. And yeah, if you have any means personalized thing, you should surely implement it and make an app that can be really successful. Then it's all totally on your luck.
So we can say that not applications, but new ideas are in demand. If we
Yeah.
have a good idea, then our application is surely going to be a blockbuster. So
Yeah,
the
yeah.
next question is, sir, is Kotlin difficult to learn?
It's very much easy actually. It's very much easy to learn. But yeah, if you are not aware of any other programming language, then it can be difficult for you, because learning the programming language at the first place is like learning syntaxes, learning how the things are working. But yeah, if you are familiar with any one of the language, like the C will be taught in your first year itself. So learning C and Kotlin simultaneously can help you very much. Kotlin is way easier than C also.
What is the scope of app development? Just try
Yeah,
to
so
answer this question with respect to the college students, that how as college students app development could be a source of earning to them.
yeah, so app development, using app development, you can make projects and you can sell them on a freelance. As a freelancer, you can sell them, and you can take an internship in app development domain. Like our student mentor is also an intern at USA based startup. So it is because he has a great knowledge in app development like Flutter, using framework for Flutter. So yeah, with the knowledge of app development, you can do a great task in your journey. And yeah, it also these projects outshines your resume, so it can really impress the interviewer when you are showcasing your project. And a fully fledged app working on a Play Store can can make it more can make him more impressed.
Is it good to do Flutter? And can you tell more about Flutter and React? Students are confused
Yeah,
that what
so these
actually
are
Flutter is.
okay. So Flutter and React are the frameworks that are used to design apps. That are used to design apps for iOS, Android. Means these different operating system with a single code base. Single code base here means is only one code base or one knowledge of programming language is required to write a apps for iOS websites and Android and many more. So with a single code base, you can write apps. Whereas in native, we have to write, if we have to make an app that is for iOS and Android, then we have to
Uh,
write two single.
is the not
Hello?
audible to me? And can anybody confirm?
Yeah, Neet is
Yeah, so
audible.
it is confirmed.
Okay, okay.
Okay, I'm audible. Okay, okay. So yeah, so to make
Yeah.
an
Can a single programmer?
yeah, to
Yes,
make
Samnit, you can continue.
app to make an app in Android or iOS in native, so you have to develop an app in two different languages. That is means a time consuming part. So in like in hybrid app development like Flutter and React Native tools, we can develop an app and it saves your time to development. It saves your development cost. It saves your time. So and it is way easier to code in hybrid app development in relation to native app development. Also, this hybrid app development is more UI based. So you can develop more means more amazing UI with this technology. And whereas in native app development it is more like hardware based, means if your app wants to access camera like GPS sensors, then native one is more recommended because native is more specific to operating system, whereas in hybrid app development it is little tough to do so.
Thanks, Savneet, for answering the queries. I think there are many queries in the chat box. So we can take up these queries in our channels, and now it's time to move in the next technology. So I request our next tech lead to take over the stage now.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Able to see my screen?
Um,
No, it's still loading, bhaiya.
Is it visible now?
Yes.
Okay. Hello guys, I hope you all are good and safe at your places. I am Ayush Vishnoi, InfoSec lead at Google's Developer Club. I'm going to tell you about what is InfoSec, and also we are going to hack some CCTV cameras to get some hands on. So before getting started, let me introduce myself, who I am. I am Ayush Vishnoi, final year student of BTech Computer Science Engineering. I'm a certified ethical hacker. I'm security researcher at Atniva and internal auditor at MetLife and security analyst at CloudSec. I also do bug bounty hunting, and yes, I'm an engineering student. I'm an engineer. So let's get started with the slide. Let's just focus on what I'm going to tell you about. These are the some key points, like I will going to explain you about information security, what is its importance, and we are going to hack some CCTV cameras, and then we are going to see what are the future perspective or what are the future opportunities in infosec domain. So diving into infosec, whenever we heard of a term cybersecurity, a word came in our mind, hacker, and that's the most fascinating word in this industry. But only hackers are not the part of this industry. Industry consists of many peoples with different roles. Let them discuss later, but now before going to see what infosec is. So cybersecurity or information security is the domain or technology which is used to protect the data and is asset of an organization or company from hackers or bad peoples. So now we know what is cybersecurity or what is information security. So let's get deep into what is its importance. So you all know who is Domino's. Recently, their data got breached. Here comes the importance of InfoSec. If their security policy are not good, then this may happen, and the sensitive data of many people's like their username, their password, or their email ID, even their phone numbers got available on the internet. So nowadays, InfoSec is the key domain or the technology that every company should have to secure their data from these hackers or bad people. So let's get started with this search engine, Shodan search engine. So you always heard of the terms Google, Bing, Yahoo. These are all search engines, and Shodan is one of the famous search engine in cybersecurity industry because Shodan is similar to Google, but it will provide you some IoT devices, some CCTV cameras, and many interesting things that are available on the internet. So let's get started and see some cameras that we can hack. But now I will not show you the whole process how we can hack the camera and all the stuff, but I'll show you the some live cameras of, I don't know what are the cities or what is the location, but these are available on the internet. Let's see them. Where are these cameras are you guys able to see my screen? Hello?
Yeah, available.
Okay, is it available? Okay. See guys, these are some cameras. This is the camera of
Sorry to interrupt, but is the voice audible?
No.
Can anybody confirm?
hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes.
now you are audible. Could you share that camera hacking thing again? I think it was really interesting and students have missed it.
Okay, I'm showing it again.
Yeah.
See, is it available right now?
Yes.
Okay, so see guys, this is the camera. I don't know what's the location and what is it, but this is a live camera. Somewhere it's night and we are just having our presentation, but somewhere it's sleeping. Okay, let's get another camera. See, this is the screenshot of the camera someone's building, and yeah, this is the camera again. This is the live camera. Actually, no one is moving, so we are not able to see any motion or anything. Cameras. So guys, this is the thing that we can hack the cameras and all the stuff. My screen is visible. So,
Negative.
am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, but the screen right now is just completely blank. Now it's visible.
Okay, is it visible?
It's again blank.
Okay, so
It's visible now. Yeah.
okay, okay, okay. So just guys all have seen the CCTV cameras of some places like which we don't know. So let's just discuss what are the future opportunities or what are the future things that we can do in cybersecurity. So the term infosec is increasing at enormous speed. So getting into it will lead you at good heights, and there are so many opportunities in it. There are many things to explore in this domain. There are various fields like you can be a penetration tester, internal auditor, security engineer, source code engineer. You can do many things. Like this is the whole big technology or big domain you can. So that's all my side. Thank you very much, and I'm available for questions now. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Hello,
There
your
are
voice.
some questions. There are some
Okay.
questions in the chat box now. The first question is, which laptop and operating system should we use for hacking?
Sorry, I'm not able to let me stop my sound. Can you please repeat the question again?
Yes, which laptop and operating system should we use for hacking?
A laptop and desktop used for hacking. Basically, there is no specific laptop or desktop you can use for hacking. You can use Linux operating system, any Linux operating system that you can use. And laptop basic specifications, like if I'm going to talk about like 8 GB, minimum 8 GB RAM and 1 TB of hard disk so that you can store your software and all the programs used for hacking. There is no specific laptop used for hacking. You can use a normal one laptop as well.
Okay, and students have questions regarding the hacking cameras hacked, which you just have shown right now during your presentation, they're asking that is it legal to access random CCTVs?
Sorry, is it legal to?
Access random CCTVs.
No, is it not legal to access random CVs? Like I'm using Tor browser. I have hacked yesterday night, so I'm showing you these. But you can't hack them. It's not easy to hack them, or some are available on the internet. You can see them. Just don't try to do anything because you can go to a jail if someone report you, or if someone have your IP with them, then you got to jail. So this is a kind of security thing you have to take care of.
Ritika is asking, kindly suggest the sources from where we can learn hacking and information security.
Okay, so not resources, just learn what is networking and just learn Linux. You can Google anything. This Google is the book. You are in college, you are now coming into the college. So just Google everything you want to learn. It's available on the internet, available on the Google. Just Google Linux, what is Linux, how Linux works. Then if you are comfortable, like you know what is Linux, and then move to what is networking, then you will come to know what is hacking and how the structure. Just first build your foundation, like what is Linux, networking, how this operating system works, how the application works, how basically the internet work. When you click on a website or when you surf a website, then what is happening behind the process, or how the server or request is going on. Just learn these things, then you will learn how hacking will work, how the process will work. Just build your foundation first.
Devansh is asking, what is the scope of cybersecurity in India?
In India, basically the scope is quite good. All the technologies and all the big giants are converting to cloud. So all things are going digital. So cybersec or infosec experts are going to have a very good pay as well, and they have so much interesting things to do in India as well. So scope is very good. You can dive into this and have your career.
Someone is asking, Facebook tracks user activity. Does this is also a hacking?
No, this is not the hacking. When you install Facebook app, you always agree the terms and conditions. So if you are thinking that this is hacking, then please do not agree that these terms and conditions. This is not hacking. This is for their better development and their better policy, so that they can develop their policies good and they can enhance their security. So this is not a hacking.
Okay. And someone is asking, are you an ethical hacker?
Yeah, I mentioned in my video, I'm certified ethical hacker.
Yeah. So, yeah. You have ever used your hacking skills for fun or your personal benefits?
For personal benefit, no. One time I made a website to get some Instagram credentials from some users, but then I told them that I have your credentials, please change your password. So yes, I have used something. But this
Okay.
is not legal. Kindly don't do it.
Abhinav, this is the last question for today. Abhinav is asking, what are the basics of hacking and how does one start their journey in hacking?
Sorry, your voice.
Okay, I'm repeating the question that how can one start their journey from basic in hacking?
Yeah, I told you earlier as well. Learn Linux, networking, and how the system works, how the internet works, how browser send the request to the server, and everything. These, like, learn Linux first. Linux is the key to dive into this concept, this domain or this technology. Learn Linux at good speed, good pace. Like, you know what is the command used for this purpose and what is how the infrastructure of Linux work and everything. Just learn Linux first. This is the base.
So one last question, what is the best platform to learn ethical hacking? I think that they are really wanting some sources as beginners to start ethical hacking or cyber security stuff. So
Okay,
could you suggest some sources?
I will provide you the resources in Discord channel once you join. But
Yeah.
there is no specific platform to learn. Like I told you, Google everything. Everything is available on Google. everything. Like you want to learn Linux, you can go to YouTube, learn Linux, because right now you are not able to spend some money to buy some subscriptions or buy some heavy courses, because cybersecurity have good amount of courses, but the price are quite high, and sometimes your parents don't allow you to buy them. So just Google the things, YouTube, and once you are comfortable with those things, then you can, if you think that yes, I'm comfortable with basics, and then buy the subscriptions of some websites, like the mentioning the name of the website, Hack the Box, Pentester Lab, and one of the free website is Sports Trigger Academy. You can go to them and learn web security, but first learn Linux, the basics of website, how the website works, learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I'm not saying that become a pro, just learn what is the structure or what is the syntax, so that you can see what is happening. Like if you don't know what the function or how the syntax of a function is JavaScript, then you might not able to get what the website is doing. So just learn the basics, just learn the things, how the things are working, and then jump to these concepts. Like if you want to go web security and mobile security, network security, there are many domains in this I can say subdomains. So first learn basics of this.
Thanks a lot, Ayush, for giving such a wonderful idea of hacking and internet information security to our freshers. And I guess that we can take other questions in our Discord channels. And if anybody of you has missed that slide, we will again be showing that slide at the end of our session. Thanks a lot, Ayush.
Thank you.
And now I guess that we can have our next tech lead to take over the session.
Thank you, Praveen.
Hey, Vaibhavi.
Hi. So, very good morning to everyone. I hope you all are doing well. So, my name is Vaibhavi Manwal, and I am cloud lead at Google Student Developers Club. So, obviously, the topic for my presentation is going to be cloud computing. So, first of all, before I start, I just want to ask you all a quick question. Okay, just answer in chat box as yes or no. So, the question goes like this: have you all used Google Drive, Google Photos, Gmail, emails? Just answer in the chat box as yes or no, in the form of yes or no. Yes, are we getting responses, Praveen? Pawan?
Yes, there are responses. There are so many responses that it's getting difficult for me to scroll.
Like it's yes or no? I guess yes only.
There is a mix of answers.
Like
yes, yes, yes.
So I think all of us have used that, okay? Like Gmails and all those services. So let me tell you, all services are actually the part of cloud computing, right? So now moving down, what actually cloud computing is. So cloud computing is basically the on-demand availability of computing resources over the internet. Like you are going, what do I mean by on-demand? Like whenever you want any computing resources such as CPU, RAM, your storage devices, you can get it over the internet. Okay, you can get any whatever computing resources you want over the internet whenever you want them. Okay, right now I want you all to go into your flashback or the past, just 7-8 years back, when we all used to have some SD cards over us, hard drives. We used to buy hard drives, SD cards to store our photos. We used to share games with our friends. Remember those days? So that time, but nowadays we don't do that much because we are getting everything over the internet. We are getting Google Drive, we are getting Gmails, everything to store our stuffs or media. So basically, that is the power of cloud computing, right? So moving further, I'll be discussing there's cloud is a very big domain. So there are a lot of services in cloud. So those services are basically divided into 3 categories. First is infrastructure as a service, second is platform as a service, and third is software as a service. So when I say infrastructure as a service, what do I mean by first as a service? Like you are using Geo service, you are using Airtel service, those are actually networking services. Similarly, over cloud, there are different types of services. So first is infrastructure as a service. When I say infrastructure as a service, that basically means that you are going to get the RAM over there, OS you can buy over there, your CPU, whatever you want, you can get them from infrastructure as a service. Now then comes platform as a service. What do I mean by platform now? Over here, your cloud service provider. Now, what actually cloud service providers are? Cloud service provider is actually a company or a group of people who are going to provide you these cloud services. So, cloud service provider will provide you a platform where you can develop, deploy, or test your applications. You do not need to worry about the storage part. You do not need to worry about your OS management part. You only have to worry about your code. So, this platform, this service, which is platform as a service, is basically used by developers. Then there comes software as a service. Software as a service, I think we all have used, because software as a service is like Gmail, your email, your Google Drives, Google Photos, where you have given you a software, your cloud service provider, like Google has given you a software that is Google Drive, and you're using those
Sorry
software.
to interrupt, Vaibhavi, but your screen is not visible to our audience. So could you just share your screen once again?
Now is it visible?
Just drop yes or no in the chat box so that we could know if the screen is visible or not to you guys. It is visible now. Ayush is saying it is visible.
So when it was not visible, like where do I have to repeat again? From where?
No problem. You can continue from wherever you left.
Okay, okay.
Then we can take queries at end.
Okay, so software is
Pavan, many of the students are still facing this problem that they are not they are unable to see the screen. So can you confirm it again?
Okay, let me just confirm. Wait for a while.
It's visible now. I think you can continue.
Okay, it's visible now. Vaibhavi, you can continue.
okay, okay. So yes, I was at software as a service. So software as a service is basically that we are using like Gmail, Google Drive, where they have your cloud service provider, that is Google in this case, is going to provide you a software, and you are using it. That like you are using Gmail services, but you do not know about the backend part of it. Okay, so right now I'm going to show you the EC2 instance. It is actually a infrastructure as a service. Is EC2 instance is actually the infrastructure as a service which is provided by Amazon Web Services. So Amazon Web Services is actually your cloud service provider, right? So so basically, I am at a cloud service provider. This is a cloud service.
Vaibhavi, sorry to interrupt again, but we need to wrap up the session. So can you just skip this experiment? And to all our audience who really want this session, you can just let us know, because now we are already ahead of time. So we will organize a separate session for you all, where we will be exclusively covering these technologies once again, and we will be taking all of your queries there, because it was not possible for us to take all of your queries. You can let us know, and we can take all your queries there. Okay, so I would request Kanak Bhaiya to take over the session, and if possible, just complete your part, and we will skip up the quiz for now, and we will be covering the quiz part in the next session.
Oh, yeah, sure. So let me just share my screen. So is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yes, it is visible.
Definitely.
Machine learning, data science, and artificial intelligence are quite the buzzword in the tech industry nowadays. Hey there, everyone. I am Kanak, one of the tech leads at GDSC, and today I'm going to give you an overview of machine learning. So what exactly is machine learning? Machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence that focuses on teaching computers how to learn without the need to be programmed for specific tasks with the help of the data. Now, I believe if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a video is worth 1,000,000. With that in mind, allow me to show you some of the most amazing machine learning projects you have ever seen. So you have probably played Subway Surfers with your fingers, but have you tried it using your camera? This project does exactly that. And moving on, any Harry Potter fans in the house? It appears that wearing a cloak of invisibility is no longer just a fantasy. And we have all used neural style transfer to create prank videos with our friends, and we all love them. Now, let's just move on to the industrial applications of machine learning. So Netflix uses machine learning for series recommendation. Voice assistants like Alexa are becoming a part of our daily life. Face recognition is a powerful security tool and quite a time saver. We all see email spam filtering in action daily. And don't we all wish to own a Tesla someday? This is all possible because of machine learning. Now, next move to the next important question. What are the career prospects of ML? So AI and ML jobs have jumped by almost 75% over the past 4 years and are poised to keep growing. Pursuing a machine learning job is a solid choice for a high paying career that will be in demand for decades. Industries that already use machine learning heavily include healthcare, education, marketing, retail, e-commerce, financial services. What I'm trying to say is that machine learning is multidisciplinary in nature and doesn't matter if you are a computer science, mechanical engineering, or biotechnology student. You will always be able to find ML applications in your field. And so if you want a great pay and benefits and want to do work that transforms the world, a career in machine learning is for you. Now, the next big question is how to learn. So these are some of the best resources that help me throughout my journey. I would suggest you to take a quick snap of it in case you want to visit it later again. Thank you for making it so far. Any questions? Feel free to type them in the chat box.
Thank you, Kanak, for such a wonderful explanation about machine learning. And we will definitely be taking up queries in the Discord. So I would request Avneet to quickly share the slide containing our links because students have missed that and they do want to take screenshots. Just quickly share that so that students can ask their queries there quick enough. And I would like to thank all of you to be a part of this session today. I believe that this session should have really helped our freshers and must have given them the exposure. And once again, thanks to the university. Thanks everybody for joining in. And I think that we can wrap up now. So yeah, take care. Guys, we will be taking all the queries in our Discord handles. So do join it. We are sharing the slide once again. And you can take the screenshot quickly because the session is going to end here. Some of the students are asking about the next session. So yes, we are also super excited to conduct sessions for you all. We will be updating you for all the sessions in our Discord and Telegram channels only. So join these links and you will be getting all your queries answered here. Thank you for such amazing responses in the chat box.